If you want to know how fast life can change, look at my watch. It is 11:15 p.m. on December 31st. Exactly 1 week ago, I was the operations manager at Sterling Corp, one of the largest logistics companies in the country. I had a career path mapped out, a fat bonus waiting for me at the end of the year, and the respect of my entire team, people I watched grow and who helped me build solid results. Today, I am just a 34-year-old man, unemployed, sitting in the dark of an apartment that seems to have grown too large for my silence. I feel a pit in my stomach every time my phone vibrates, fearing it is the bank warning me that I've hit my overdraft limit. They say doing the right thing brings rewards, that the universe conspires in favor of those with integrity. But my reward for being honest was a cardboard box with my personal belongings, and the humiliation of being escorted by security from the building where I gave my blood, sweat, and sleepless nights for the last 5 years. And the worst part isn't even the unemployment itself. What really hurts, what burns inside, is knowing that while I am here counting pennies to pay January's rent, the man who destroyed everything, my former boss, Roberto, is likely at a luxurious gala. He is probably toasting with champagne that costs more than my salary, being applauded as the executive of the year, wearing that fake smile he practiced so well in the mirror. Life isn't fair. I learned that the hard way. But what I didn't know was that on that New Year's Eve, life was about to get even stranger and more dangerous. I froze when the sound echoed through the hallway. Who rings a doorbell at 11:15 p.m.? On New Year's Eve, in the middle of a blizzard that closed half the highways in the city? I jumped off the couch, accidentally kicking an empty soda can on the floor. The metallic sound echoed off the empty walls of the apartment, reminding me of how alone I was. I walked to the door with my heart in my throat. I looked through the peephole and for a second thought I was hallucinating from exhaustion and lack of food. I felt the blood drain from my face. Outside, under the flickering yellow light of the hallway, shaking snow off an impeccable black wool coat that cost more than all the furniture in my apartment, was her, Victoria Sterling, the owner of the corporation, the woman I only saw on the covers of business magazines or in corporate emails sent to thousands of employees. She didn't look like the confident, smiling woman from the photos. Victoria's face was grim, her eyebrows slightly furrowed, an expression as hard as stone. She held a thick leather folder with the company's gold logo, pressing it against her chest. My mind went into a tailspin. What is she doing here? Did Roberto sue me for defamation? Are they blaming me for the warehouse collapse after I left? Did they make up a story that I stole confidential data to justify my wrongful termination? I opened the door slowly, feeling the hinge creak. The freezing hallway air rushed in, but Victoria's gaze was even colder. "Lucas Mendes," she said. It wasn't a question. It was a direct statement, loaded with that tone of authority from someone used to being obeyed without question. "Miss Sterling, what are you?" My voice failed, hoarse from days of disuse. "You are a hard man to find, Lucas. Your phone has been off for 2 days. HR didn't have your new address updated in the system. I had to come here personally because I had to dig through physical files from 5 years ago to find this address." She took a step forward, invading my space naturally, as if she owned the place. I instinctively backed away, feeling small in her presence. "May I come in?" she asked. But she was already crossing the threshold. Her eyes swept over my messy apartment, the empty pizza boxes, the dimly lit room. There was a silent judgment there, and I felt exposed. "Or would you prefer we have this conversation here in the hallway, so all your neighbors can hear the scale of the problem you created for my company?" A problem I created? The blood rushed to my head. I wanted to scream, to tell her the problem was the greedy director she kept on the payroll. But fear spoke louder. She was the most powerful woman in the city. If she wanted to, she could ensure I'd never get a job sweeping the floor of a backyard factory. I made room for her to pass. She walked in, and her expensive citrus perfume dominated the room, contrasting with the musty smell of my apartment. To understand why the richest woman in the state is in my living room looking like she's about to legally execute me, we need to go back exactly 72 hours in time, to the moment my life ended. Before we continue, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to me. Done? Thank you. Now let's see what happens next. It was the morning of December 28th. The Sterling Corp office was at that slow year-end pace, with half the team on break. But not in the regional director's office. Roberto called me at 9 a.m. sharp. Roberto was the archetype of a corporate boss. Teeth too white, calculated handshakes, and a soul that seemed to have been replaced by an Excel spreadsheet long ago. He was obsessed with the efficiency bonus. "Lucas, sit down. We have a hole in the operating budget," he said, without taking his eyes off the monitor. "The fourth quarter closed below the net margin target. I need to cut fixed costs before the end of the year to ensure the shareholder bonus is released. And my bonus too, obviously." He slid a sheet of paper across the desk. There was a name circled in red. Arthur Silva. I felt a punch in the stomach. Mr. Arthur was 62 years old. He was the oldest employee in the warehouse, a man who knew every bolt and every delivery route by heart. He had just returned from leave after a delicate heart surgery and was still mourning his wife, who passed away 6 months ago. "Arthur is slow, Lucas," Roberto continued with irritating boredom. "His salary is too high because of his tenure and accumulated benefits. If we cut him today, the math works, and we hit the profitability target. He had a heart attack last year, Roberto." I raised my voice for the first time in 5 years. "He gave his life to this company. This job is the only thing keeping him going, emotionally and financially. You'll kill the man if you do this on New Year's Eve." Roberto took off his glasses and looked at me with reptilian contempt. "This isn't a charity, Lucas. It's a global business. Do your job. I want his termination signed before lunch. If Arthur isn't out of this building by 1 p.m., I will assume you don't have the grit required to be a leader in this company. And then, the one leaving with a security escort will be you." The silence in the room was deafening. I looked at the paper and saw Arthur's face in my mind. He was the one who always brought me coffee when I stayed late. He called me son. "I'm not doing it," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "What did you say?" Roberto asked, as if he couldn't believe his own ears. "I said I won't be your executioner. I won't destroy an honest man's life just so you can get a new car next year." Roberto smiled. It was a cruel smile, the smile of someone who already had Plan B ready. "Very well, martyr. You made your choice." He picked up the phone and called security. I was fired for gross insubordination and improper conduct. He guaranteed he would put a stain on my resume that no respectable company would ignore. I was dragged out of the building, no chance to say goodbye, no chance to explain, thrown onto the sidewalk with nothing but my wounded pride. And now, 3 days later, the owner of the company is standing in my living room. Victoria Sterling placed the leather folder on my cheap wooden coffee table. The dull thud sent dust flying under the lamp's light. She took off her leather gloves slowly, keeping her eyes fixed on mine, as if trying to read my soul. "I received a detailed report from Roberto about your sudden departure," she began, and her voice was like a razor on silk. "He described acts of insubordination, sabotaging targets, and physical aggression against management. I left a gala where the governor of the state was present to come to this apartment. Do you know why? Because I need the absolute truth. I didn't trust my legal department or internal audit to resolve this. They bring me papers. I wanted to see with my own eyes who the man is that paralyzed my regional operation. And if you lie to me now, Lucas, I guarantee that being unemployed will be the least of your legal worries starting tomorrow." She opened the folder and revealed that she had recovered the footage and audio from the hallway on the 28th. She had the proof that something strange happened. But she wanted my confession. "I want to hear it from your mouth. No beating around the bush, no polished corporate terms. Why did you really leave Sterling Corp?" I looked at her. It was 20 minutes to midnight. The world outside was about to celebrate new beginnings, and I was being cornered in my own refuge. I took a deep breath. I had already lost everything. I had nothing left to protect but the truth. "You want the truth, Victoria?" I said, using her name without the title of ma'am, which made her arch an eyebrow. "The truth is that your company is rotten from the inside out. And if you came here to threaten me with lawsuits, save your lawyer's time and just call the police, because I'd rather be in jail than work one more minute for people who treat human beings like disposable trash." The silence between us in that moment was so tense it felt like the air could burst into flames. Victoria Sterling didn't scream. She didn't stand up in a rage to leave. She just narrowed her icy eyes, studying me like an enigma she couldn't solve. My audacity to call her by her name and challenge her authority seemed to have short-circuited her perception of power. "Rotten, is a dangerous accusation to make, Lucas Mendes. She repeated the word cautiously, especially coming from someone who was escorted out of a company by security. I was escorted because I had the courage to say no to your director, I shot back, anger finally winning over fear. Roberto wanted me to fire Mr. Arthur. Do you know who he is, Victoria? He has dedicated his life to Sterling for 40 years. He knows every inch of that warehouse. He lost his wife, had a heart attack, and your regional director wanted to throw him in the gutter on New Year's Eve just to inflate his bonus by 0.5%. I stopped to breathe, feeling my chest burn. Victoria remained motionless, her stone expression starting to give way to something I couldn't identify. Roberto lied to you, I continued, the words coming out like a machine gun. He said I sabotaged the company? The only sabotage I did was give up my own position so that Arthur's salary would stay on the payroll. I chose to be human instead of being another robot on your assembly line. If being honest and having empathy is a crime at Sterling Corp, then yes, I am a criminal. You can sue me. But don't come here to my home acting like I'm the villain when the real monster is toasting with your money at this very moment. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the distant sound of fireworks starting to go off on the outskirts of the city. Victoria looked away. For the first time, I saw the shoulders of that powerful woman drop slightly. She suddenly looked tired. Not physical exhaustion, but the weight of someone realizing the pedestal she stands on is made of sand. She walked slowly to my worn-out sofa and sat on the edge of it, ignoring the dust and the humble surroundings. Sit down, Lucas. Please. I didn't come here to sue you. Her voice was different. Lower, more real. I sat in the old armchair across from her, still suspicious, my trembling hands hidden under my thighs. Victoria opened the folder again and took out a tablet. When Roberto sent me the report of your departure, I was in the middle of a complex Asian merger. I signed the termination papers without reading the footnotes. I trusted him, Lucas. He has been my regional director for 3 years and he always delivered the numbers I asked for. In the business world, you learn not to question what is working. She turned on the tablet screen and slid a graph toward me. But yesterday, the regional warehouse simply stopped. The Tech Global shipments were delayed. The inventory system collapsed. I called Roberto and he once again blamed you. He said you had deleted access codes and messed up the files before being removed. I would never do that. That company was my life, I protested indignantly. I know you wouldn't, she said, and her eyes met mine with an intensity that took my breath away. Because I did something I haven't done in 2 years. I went down to the warehouse this afternoon, without telling anyone. I wanted to see the chaos you had left. And do you know what I found, Lucas? I didn't find sabotage. I found a team of 200 people in a state of shock. No one was working because everyone was afraid they were next. She took a long breath and looked at her own hands. And I found Mr. Arthur. He was sitting in the locker room, crying quietly. When he saw me, he wasn't afraid. He stood up and tried to hand me his own resignation letter. He told me, Ms. Victoria, please let me go and bring Lucas back. He sacrificed himself for me, and it isn't fair. I've lived my life, but he has a future. I felt a lump in my throat. Old Arthur, even in his situation, was trying to protect me. Victoria turned off the tablet with a sharp click that cut through the room's silence. It was in that locker room, smelling like cheap coffee and machine oil, that I realized I knew nothing about my own company. I was looking at profit spreadsheets in New York, thinking I was a great leader, while my directors were acting like tyrants and my best talents were being treated like disposable numbers. She leaned forward, invading my personal space again. But now her citrus perfume didn't seem intimidating. It felt comforting. I had my private security team pull the hidden recordings from Roberto's office, not just the hallway. I heard the conversation, Lucas. I saw Roberto laughing at you after the security guards took you away. I heard him calling you a sentimental idiot while calling a friend to celebrate that his bonus was guaranteed. Victoria seemed genuinely ashamed. That must have wounded her pride deeply. My father founded Sterling with one simple rule: respect the ones carrying the piano, or the piano will fall on your head. I forgot that. I let Roberto infect my company's culture because the profits were convenient. She reached into the folder and pulled out a sealed white envelope. The same envelope I thought contained a lawsuit. What is this? I asked, my voice thick with emotion. The solution, she said with a flash of determination in her eyes. Roberto doesn't know I'm here. He still thinks I'm at the gala. He believes that when the clock strikes midnight, his $1 million bonus will be automatically deposited into his account. She slid the envelope across the table to me. Open it. I took the envelope with trembling hands. I tore the seal and pulled out a single sheet of paper. It was an official termination document, with the president's seal. But the name at the top wasn't mine. It was Roberto V. Alencar. Reason: immediate dismissal and formal opening of a for-cause termination based on moral harassment and gross violation of the company's code of ethics. I looked at Victoria, in total shock. You're firing him? On New Year's Eve? I already fired him, she corrected, looking at her luxury wristwatch. His access to the central server was revoked exactly 10 minutes ago. His badge won't even open the parking lot gate on Monday. And that bonus he coveted so much? It's been blocked by audit. He will spend the first day of 2026 responding to lawsuits, not popping champagne. I felt a wave of relief so strong I almost laughed. Justice existed after all. Late, but relentless. Thank you, Victoria. Truly. Mr. Arthur will sleep peacefully tonight if he knows this. I stood up, thinking the conversation was over. But Victoria didn't move. She remained seated on my sofa, looking at me as if the main course hadn't been served yet. Sit down, Lucas. I'm not finished yet. Her tone returned to being authoritative, but now there was a positive challenge in it. What do you mean? Roberto is out. The problem is solved. Roberto's problem is solved, she agreed, nodding. But my problem is just beginning. I have an entire region without a leader. I have a team that no longer trusts management. And I have a CEO who just realized she can't trust brilliant Harvard resumes if the man behind the degree has no character. She pulled a second document from the folder. This one was thicker, with several pages. It looked like an official high-level contract. I didn't drive here in the snow just to give you satisfying news about your ex-boss, Lucas. I could have had an assistant do that. I came here because I need you. The clock on the wall marked 11:55 p.m. There were 5 minutes left until the new year. What do you want from me? I asked, feeling butterflies in my stomach. I'm just a middle-class operations manager. You are the only person in that building who had the courage to say no to me, she said, standing up and walking to the window, watching the snowflakes fall. Everyone around me tells me what I want to hear. Roberto said the team was happy. Investors say I'm a genius. You were the only one who put your own neck on the line to do what was right. She turned to me, her silhouette outlined against the light of the first fireworks on the horizon. I don't want you to go back to being an operations manager, Lucas. That would be a waste of your talent and your integrity. She pointed to the contract on the table. I want you to take Roberto's job. I want you to be the new acting regional director. The floor fell out from under me. What? My voice came out almost as a shout. Regional director. Victoria, I don't have an MBA in strategic management. I don't know the high-level executive protocols. To hell with the MBA, she exclaimed with a sudden passion that startled me. Roberto had all the academic qualifications in the world, and he almost destroyed the soul of my company. I don't need more cold theorists. I need someone who cares, someone the team truly respects. Mr. Arthur told me the employees would walk through fire for you. That is the kind of leadership I want for Sterling. She walked over to me and placed her hand on the document, looking at me intently. The salary is triple what you were making. Company car, real bonuses, and most importantly, carte blanche. You will have total autonomy to restructure the team. If you think we should prioritize employee well-being over short-term profit, I will give you full cover before the board. Acting, for now. If you prove in January that you can stabilize the operation, the job is yours permanently, along with all the stock options that come with it. I looked at the contract. It was the chance I never dared to dream of. But fear still whispered in my ear. And if I fail? It's a massive responsibility. Then we will fail together trying to do the right thing, she said. And for the first time, she gave me a small but genuine smile. Which is much better than failing while doing the wrong thing, like I've been doing until now. We began to hear the shouts of neighbors and horns in the street. 10, 9. Victoria held out a heavy metal pen to me. You have 10 seconds to decide how you're going to start your 2026, Lucas. You can start at your parents' house, unemployed and full of bitterness. Or you can start by helping me fix this mess and turning Sterling into a place where people are proud to work. 8, 7, 6. I looked at my moving boxes. I looked at the incredible woman who had the humility to come to my home and recognize a mistake. I took the pen. 3, 2, 1. I signed my name on the dotted line exactly at the moment the city's biggest firework exploded in the sky, lighting up the room with flashes of gold and red. "Happy New Year, Lucas," Victoria said, extending her hand for a formal handshake that lasted a second longer than necessary. "Happy New Year, Director." She didn't let go of my hand immediately. She stood there, looking at me while the fireworks popped outside. For a brief moment, the business seemed to disappear. There was a connection there, a human one, between two people who had survived a storm and were now ready to rebuild the ship. "We have a lot of work to do on Monday," she said, slowly letting go of my hand. "But right now, I'm starving, and I think you have a cold pizza in the kitchen that would be great shared with your new partner, don't you think?" I laughed. It was a laugh of pure relief, the first time I felt light in months. "I think we can find something better than cold pizza to celebrate a new beginning. They say ignorance is a blessing. If that's true, Roberto Alencar was the most blessed and happy man on earth on the morning of Monday, January 2nd. While I sat on the leather seat of Victoria's armored car, adjusting the cuffs of my new suit and trying to control the cold sweat on my hands, Roberto was living what he believed was the peak of his career. He parked his German luxury sedan exactly in the spot marked Regional Director, the closest to the entrance, with the arrogance of someone who feels he owns the asphalt. He stepped out of the car, straightening his silk tie, checking his reflection in the building's mirrored glass, convinced that the $1 million bonus was already resting in his bank account. He didn't have the slightest clue that the only bonus he would receive that day would be the weight of his own greed turning against him. Roberto walked to the electronic turnstiles in the main lobby with his chest puffed out. At the front desk was Mr. Carlos. Carlos was a man in his 50s, an ex-military man who worked on his feet 12 hours a day to support 3 children in college. In 3 years, Roberto had never looked Carlos in the eye. To him, the security guard was just part of the furniture, an inanimate object that served to open doors. "Good morning, Mr. Alencar," Carlos said, but there was something different in his tone of voice today. It wasn't the usual robotic, subservient tone. There was a note of expectation. Roberto didn't even bother to answer. He just tapped his gold badge on the magnetic reader, waiting for the green light to go up to his throne on the 40th floor. Beep, beep. Red light. Access denied. Roberto furrowed his brow, annoyed. He tapped the badge again, this time harder, as if the reader were disrespecting him. Beep, beep. Red light. "What the hell is this?" he grumbled, banging the plastic on the sensor. "Carlos, this machine is broken. Use your master key and let me through. I have a meeting with the board in 10 minutes. Carlos remained motionless behind the marble counter. He typed something into the computer with a deliberate slowness that made Roberto huff in anger. "The system is operating perfectly, sir," Carlos informed him with a calm that was almost poetic. "But the reader is displaying a credential revoked message." "Revoked?" Roberto let out a short, nervous laugh. "Do you have any idea what you're saying? I am the regional director of this unit. I command every brick in this building, including your workstation. Open this turnstile now, or you'll be on the street before I even finish my coffee." Carlos looked at Roberto. Then, he looked at the revolving glass door, where Victoria's black car had just pulled up. "I'm sorry, sir. My current orders are absolute. I cannot allow entry to unauthorized civilians. And according to my terminal, you are listed as a former employee in the process of termination." Roberto turned purple. The vein in his forehead popped, throbbing violently. "Former employee? Have you lost your mind? I'm going to call HR right now and demand your head on a platter." He pulled his phone from his pocket, his fat fingers trembling as he dialed his personal secretary's number. "Why is nobody answering in this damn place?" he shouted at the ceiling, as other employees arriving for their shift began to circle around, forming a semicircle of silent curiosity. "There will be no need to call anyone, Roberto." The voice came from behind him. It was a voice Roberto knew well, but he had never heard it in that tone, calm, icy, and loaded with the authority of an executioner. Roberto turned around. Victoria Sterling was standing there, wearing a charcoal gray overcoat, her arms crossed. Beside her was me. I was no longer the exhausted manager of 3 days ago. I was in a dark suit, posture straight, staring him down without blinking. Roberto looked at Victoria, then at me, then at Victoria again. His brain seemed like an engine trying to start in the cold, choking on its own disbelief. "Victoria?" he stammered, the plastic smile returning to his face in a bizarre conditioned reflex. What a pleasant surprise. "Welcome back. I was just dealing with this insolent security guard who— Wait, what is he doing here?" Roberto pointed at me with disgust, as if I were a stain on the carpet. "I fired this young man for gross insubordination and aggression. He shouldn't be on the company perimeter. Carlos, get Mr. Mendes out of here immediately before I call the police." Carlos, the security guard, didn't move an inch. In fact, he allowed a small smile to appear at the corner of his mouth. Victoria took a step forward. The sound of her heels on the granite floor echoed like gunshots in a canyon. "Mr. Carlos no longer takes orders from you, Roberto. In fact, no one in this company will ever take another order from you." Roberto felt the ground shake. His arrogance began to give way to a primal panic. "Victoria, what are you talking about? Is this a New Year's joke? We have profitability reports to review. I hit the cost-cutting target. I did everything the board—" "I know exactly what you did," I said, interrupting him. My voice came out firm, without the tremor that haunted me for years under his command. "You tried to destroy Arthur's life to inflate a Christmas bonus. You lied to the board, faked performance reviews, and used the security department to intimidate honest employees." Roberto turned to me, his eyes bloodshot with hatred. "Shut up! You are a nobody. A little operations manager that I threw in the trash." "Actually," Victoria intervened, placing her hand on my shoulder in a gesture of possession that silenced Roberto instantly. "Lucas Mendes is the new acting regional director of this unit." The color completely drained from Roberto's face. He stumbled back, leaning against the turnstile he so desperately wanted to cross. "Him?" Roberto whispered, his voice suddenly high-pitched. "You're going to put this amateur in my place?" "He's weak, Victoria. He cares about feelings, about people. He'll bankrupt this region in less than a month. If having integrity is being weak, then I prefer his weakness to your corrosive strength," Victoria replied, handing Roberto the same white envelope she had shown me in the apartment. "Your access has been revoked. The bonus has been blocked due to suspected fraud. And your for-cause termination is being processed right now." Roberto looked around. He saw the faces of the employees watching him. People he had humiliated for years. There wasn't a drop of pity in those gazes. There was a collective relief, a feeling that the poison had finally been drained from the building. "This isn't over," Roberto shouted, his voice cracking. "I'm going to sue you. I'll take every cent from this company. I have powerful lawyers." "Mr. Carlos," Victoria called out, without taking her eyes off the pathetic man in front of her. "Please escort the civilian Roberto Alencar to his vehicle. Ensure he returns the company phone and laptop before crossing the gate." Carlos, the security guard, took a step forward, his large hands behind his back. "With pleasure, Ms. Sterling." He looked at Roberto. "The devices, sir. Please." We watched Roberto hand over the phone with trembling hands, muttering empty threats, and being escorted out like a second-class intruder. When the revolving door closed behind him, a strange but purifying silence fell over the lobby. Victoria turned to me. She didn't say anything for a moment. She just studied me. "Was it what you expected?" she asked quietly. "It was necessary," I replied, breathing in the building's air, which now felt lighter. "Good. Enjoy the feeling for 5 more seconds, Lucas." She looked at her watch. "Because now the hard part begins. We have 500 employees in there thinking their heads are next. Go fix this company's trust." Toppling the villain is the cinematic part of the story. But the real part, the part no one tells you in management books, is how to heal the trauma a toxic leader leaves behind. As I walked through the hallways toward the central warehouse, accompanied by Victoria, the atmosphere in the building was still like a funeral. Normally, at 9:30 a.m., the Sterling Corp Logistics Center was a living organism. Forklifts buzzing, coordinators shouting orders over radios, the constant sound of tape sealing boxes heading to every corner of the continent. Today, however, the predominant sound was the silence of fear. Employees worked in slow motion, heads down. When the panoramic elevator doors opened at the warehouse mezzanine, I saw the dread on their faces. They knew Roberto had been kicked out. But years of abuse logic said, if the big bad wolf is gone, the hunter coming next must be ready for the final slaughter. They thought I was the cleaner sent by Victoria to close the unit or fire half the staff. I walked down the main aisle. I saw Mariana, one of the packaging supervisors, quickly wiping away tears before I passed. I saw Jorge, the fleet manager, holding a clipboard with hands so tense his knuckles were white. They didn't look at me with respect. They looked at me with the terror of someone awaiting a death sentence. And then, way in the back, near loading dock 4, I saw him. Mr. Arthur was standing next to a small cardboard box. Inside were his few belongings, an old photo of his wife, his chipped ceramic mug, and a withered potted plant. He was holding his cap in his hand, head down, wearing his coat to leave. He thought the sacrifice I had made on the 28th had been in vain. He thought my defeat meant his fall as well. My chest tightened so much I nearly lost my breath. I couldn't allow that man to leave feeling like a burden. Victoria stood beside me and whispered, "They are terrified, Lucas. If you don't speak now, we'll lose the operation by noon. Fix it. The stage is yours." I didn't use the sound system. The silence was so absolute that my natural voice echoed through the whole warehouse. "Attention, everyone. Please, stop what you're doing for a minute." The machines were turned off. Hundreds of pairs of eyes turned to me. I looked at Mr. Arthur. He slowly raised his head. When he saw me in a suit, standing next to the owner of the company, his expression changed from sadness to absolute shock. "I know what you're thinking," I began, my voice gaining strength. "I know the last few years have been based on fear. I know many of you slept worried if you'd have a job the next morning. I know you saw colleagues discarded like numbers on a cold spreadsheet." I walked toward Arthur. The crowd of workers opened a path for me as if I were carrying a flame. I stopped in front of him. "Mr. Arthur," I said with a smile. "Where do you think you're going with that box?" He swallowed hard, his eyes tearing up. I was clearing out my locker, Lucas. I heard you had left and I figured, well, that my time was up too." "Your time is just beginning, Arthur." I took the box from his hands and placed it back on the inspection counter. "I am here to announce that Mr. Roberto Alencar is no longer part of Sterling Corp. Starting today, I am taking over as the regional director of this unit. And my first official order as acting director is this. Mr. Arthur Silva has just been promoted to General Training Coordinator." There was a collective gasp. An electric shock seemed to run through the warehouse. "I need someone with your wisdom to teach the new hires how things should really be done," I continued, speaking to everyone. "The era of fear is over. From now on, no one will be punished for having a life outside of here or for going through hard times. We are a team, and we are going to take care of each other." Mr. Arthur hugged me. It was a hug between father and son, right there in the middle of the forklifts. And then, something happened. Someone started clapping in the back, then another. Within 10 seconds, the entire warehouse was exploding with cheers and applause. I saw grown men, tough workers, wiping their eyes. The tension evaporated, replaced by an energy I had never seen in that place. Victoria, watching from the mezzanine, smiled. It was a smile of pride, but the joy was short-lived. At 2 p.m., corporate reality knocked on the door of my new office with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. 3 men in suits entered without knocking, the Investor Advisory Board. Led by Marcus Valente, a man who looked like he had been carved out of marble and ice, whose only god was the profit margin. Victoria walked in right behind them, her expression tense. "So this is your savior, Victoria?" Marcus said, ignoring my presence and speaking directly to her. "You remove an experienced director and put in a mid-level manager who gives motivational speeches to workers?" "Lucas understands the operation better than anyone here, Marcus," Victoria shot back, sitting at the conference table. Marcus threw a heavy folder onto my desk. "Respect is earned with numbers, kid. Roberto was an animal, but he delivered a 15% margin. Now, thanks to this gesture of kindness, we are facing a disaster. The Tech Global contract, our biggest client, is at risk." I looked at the documents. It was a logistics nightmare. 50,000 units, Marcus continued, his voice cutting. Delivery deadline, 5 days from today. Roberto was going to double the shifts, cancel all time off, and threaten to fire anyone who didn't hit the hourly quota. It was brutal, but the schedule would work. He leaned over the desk, invading my space. Now tell me, human director, what is your plan? To ask them nicely to work faster? If this cargo isn't out by Friday at midnight, the late penalty will eat up the entire company's profit for this year. And I will personally vote for Victoria's removal for mismanagement. I looked at Victoria. She didn't intervene. She was testing me. I had won the soul of the company that morning, but now I needed to prove I could save its body. My plan is simple, Mr. Valente, I replied, closing the folder. I'm not going to force anyone to stay a minute longer than their contract requires. Marcus laughed, a laugh of pure disdain. So you've already accepted defeat? No, I continued, keeping my voice calm. I'm going to tell them the truth. I'm going to explain that the company's future is at stake. And I'm going to offer real productivity bonuses, quality food, and transportation for all volunteers. I'm going to treat the team as partners in the solution, not slaves to the problem. That will cost 20% more in operating costs, Marcus shouted. The budget doesn't allow it. The budget for labor lawsuits and errors caused by exhaustion that Roberto generated cost 30%, I countered, pushing a report I had spent my lunch hour preparing. Happy people make fewer mistakes. Motivated people work 20% faster. The math works, Marcus. You just need to stop looking only at the cost and start looking at the value. Marcus looked at the report. The silence in the room was thick. You have 5 days, he said, standing up and straightening his suit. If that cargo isn't at the port by Friday night, I will personally escort you and Victoria to the front door. They left. I was alone with Victoria in the room. The weight of the world fell on my shoulders. You've picked a nasty fight, Lucas, she said, walking to the window. I picked the right fight, Victoria. I hope so. She turned to me, and for a second the professional barrier flickered. She looked worried, for me. Because the blizzard coming tomorrow is going to be the worst in a decade. The port will close, the roads will freeze, and your goodwill is going to be tested by fire. I looked at the yard below. The first snowflakes were starting to fall. The storm was coming, and I had just bet everything on the idea that kindness could overcome the impossible. Leadership is a funny thing. It's easy to be the captain of a ship when the sea is calm, the sky is blue, and the crew is rested. But it's in the middle of the storm, when the waves threaten to capsize the boat and the cold cuts through your skin, that you find out if people trust your command or if they're just waiting for the first lifeboat to jump overboard. We were in the middle of the hurricane. It was 4 p.m. on Wednesday, with just over 48 hours left until the fatal Tech Global deadline. And the blizzard of the century had finally arrived. The world outside was a white wall of ice and howling wind that shook the metal sheets of the warehouse roof like they were pieces of paper. I had been on the floor for 14 straight hours. My tie had vanished in the first hour, my dress shirt sleeves were rolled up to my elbows, and my hands were dirty with dust and cardboard. I wasn't in my director's office looking at charts. I was helping load pallets manually at Dock 4 because one of the automated conveyors had frozen in the extreme cold. "Boss!" shouted Jorge, the fleet coordinator, running toward me with a radio in hand and a panicked expression. "Rapid North, our largest third-party carrier, just called. They canceled all pickups for today and tomorrow. They said they won't risk their trucks and insurance policies on these frozen roads." I felt a punch in the stomach. That carrier represented 40% of our shipping capacity. Without them, the 20,000 units left to be shipped would be stuck in the warehouse, and Sterling Corp would be humiliated in the market. The sound of the machines stopped. A murmur of concern ran through the hallways like a virus. Employees stopped packing and looked at me. Fear, that old acquaintance from the Roberto era, was trying to return. They expected a shout. They expected a threat. I climbed onto a wooden crate so everyone could see me. My legs were shaking from weariness. "Everyone, listen!" My voice echoed through the warehouse, competing with the howling wind outside. "The third-party carrier let us down. They think it's impossible to drive. But we have our own internal fleet of trucks, and we have ourselves." I took a deep breath, looking at the exhausted faces before me. "Your shift ended an hour ago. The snow is getting worse, and the roads are becoming dangerous. I am not going to force anyone to stay. Anyone who needs to go home to their families can leave now. The company bus is heated and waiting. No one will be penalized. I give you my word." There was a heavy silence. I knew if they left, my career and Victoria's would end on Monday. "But," I continued, "for anyone who can and wants to stay, I promise 3 things. Double overtime paid in cash next week, a guaranteed hot meal, and most importantly, I will be here, loading box by box with you, until the last truck leaves. Mr. Arthur and I are not going home tonight." I saw a young man from the packaging department, a guy I had helped with a salary advance the week before, look at the exit door and then at me. He gripped the roll of packing tape in his hand. "The bonus is going to help pay for my house renovation," he said loudly to his colleagues. "And Lucas didn't let us down when Roberto tried to screw us. I'm not letting him down now. I'm staying." "I'm staying too," shouted Mariana. "Count me in, director," Jorge yelled. One by one, without exception, everyone went back to their posts. Not out of fear of being fired, but out of loyalty to a man who treated them like human beings. I felt a lump in my throat. That was something Marcus Valente and his spreadsheets would never understand. But the biggest surprise of the night came 10 minutes later. I was struggling to lift a heavy box of electronic components when I felt someone grab the other end of the cardboard. "On 3, Lucas." 1, 2, 3. We lifted the box together. I wiped the sweat stinging my eyes and turned to thank the employee who had helped me. I froze. It was Victoria, but it wasn't the Victoria I knew. She had traded the $1,000 overcoat and silk dress for a gray company sweatshirt, 3 sizes too big for her, and worn-out jeans. Her blonde hair, always impeccable, was tied back in a practical, messy ponytail. She was wearing leather work gloves and had a smudge of grease on her left cheek. "Victoria?" I asked, incredulous. "What are you doing here?" "Marcus called me an hour ago. He was celebrating our downfall, saying the contract was lost because of the snow." She grabbed another box, showing an agility I didn't expect. "I told him he doesn't know the strength of Sterling. I came to see the impossible happen up close, Lucas. You're the CEO. You shouldn't be carrying boxes in the freezing cold." She stopped for a second, looked me in the eyes, and smiled in a way I had never seen. A knowing, human smile. A smart leader once told me that leading is holding the base. Besides, I played volleyball in college, Lucas. I can handle the grind. "Let's go, acting director. We have a deadline to hit." We worked side by side for the next 5 hours. Victoria didn't ask for special treatment. She carried boxes, labeled pallets, and even helped Mr. Arthur organize emergency routes. Her presence there, in the middle of the sweat and noise, changed the soul of that company forever. The employees no longer saw a distant owner. They saw a partner. It was 3 a.m. when the pace slowed for a mandatory break. I was sitting on a wooden bench, reviewing the loading list under a dim light, feeling like my bones were made of lead. Suddenly, a paper cup with steaming coffee appeared in my vision. "Black coffee, no sugar. It's what the captain needs right now," Victoria said, sitting next to me with a familiarity that warmed me more than the drink. "Thanks." I smiled, accepting the cup. Our hands brushed. Her glove was cold, but the touch sent a jolt of energy through my arm. "Are you okay? Your hands must be destroyed." She looked at her own hands and laughed quietly, a tired but satisfied laugh. "I've never felt so useful in all my academic and corporate life, Lucas. I spent 10 years locked in glass offices thinking I was building an empire, but I was just building a golden prison for myself. It took you quitting to break that glass and show me what really matters." She turned to me. We were very close on the bench. I could see the small freckles on her nose and the sparkle of genuine admiration in her blue eyes. "You are a rare man," she whispered. "Most people would use the power I gave you to get revenge on Roberto or to feel superior. You used it to serve coffee to workers and carry boxes in a blizzard. It's what you do for family, Victoria. And these people are my family." There was a moment of absolute silence between us, despite the noise of the machines in the background. It was that kind of silence loaded with things unsaid, of a chemistry born not from superficial attraction, but from mutual respect forged in sacrifice. For a second, I thought she was going to kiss me, or I her. "Final truck loaded!" Jorge shouted, breaking the spell. Victoria blinked, returning to the role of CEO, but the look she gave me before standing up was different, sweeter, more promising. Let's ship this last one, Lucas. Marcus Valente is going to have a heart attack when he receives the delivery receipt. The last truck left the gates at 11:15 p.m. on Friday, 45 minutes before the final deadline. When the vehicle's taillights vanished into the blizzard, the warehouse exploded. People were crying, hugging, throwing caps into the air. The impossible had been done. My phone rang. It was Marcus. The client confirmed receipt of the electronic invoice. His voice was dry, bitter. It's impressive. It's more than that, Marcus. It's the new standard at Sterling Corp. And prepare the budget. This team's bonuses are going to be the largest in this company's history. If you question 1 cent, Victoria will have my resignation and hers on your desk tomorrow. I hung up before he could respond. I looked at Victoria. She was on the other side, being hugged by Mariana. She saw me, raised her coffee cup in a toast, and smiled. We had won. They say a year is enough time for the Earth to make one complete trip around the sun. But for us at Sterling Corp, it was the time needed to turn an entire universe upside down. We are back at New Year's Eve. But today, the scene is radically different from that lonely night in my apartment. I'm in the main hall of an elegant club, wearing a tuxedo that, I must admit, makes me feel like a completely new man. There is no more fear of answering the phone, no more counting pennies. The company changed in a way that market experts are still trying to explain. Profits rose 40%, not because we squeezed the employees, but because they stopped missing work, stopped making mistakes, and started innovating. The word acting was removed from my title of regional director back in February, with a unanimous board vote. Even Marcus Valente had to vote in favor, though he did it with a sour face. Mr. Arthur is in the center of the hall, wearing a navy blue suit and dancing with his granddaughter. He was elected Mentor of the Year. Roberto Alencar? The last I heard of him, he was facing his 3rd consecutive labor lawsuit, and no logistics company in the country would even accept his resume. The market has a short memory for success, but an eternal memory for tyrants. I was standing on the balcony, watching the snow fall gently over the city, when I smelled the citrus perfume I would now recognize from miles away. Running away from your own party, Director. Victoria appeared beside me. She was stunning in a gold dress that looked like it was made of liquid light. But it wasn't the dress that caught the eye. It was her expression. The Ice Queen had completely melted, giving way to a woman who smiled with her eyes and greeted truck drivers by name. Just taking a moment to enjoy the view, I replied, turning to her. It's hard to believe that exactly 1 year ago, you were knocking on my door in the middle of a storm, ready to sue me. She laughed, a crystal-clear sound that blended with the music in the background. I wasn't ready to sue you, Lucas. I was desperate to find something real in that company, and I found it. She stepped closer, leaning her elbows on the balcony railing, standing very close to me. You saved Sterling, you know that. We saved it, Victoria. I just gave the initial push. You had the courage to change the whole system. Don't be modest. It's one of your few annoying traits, she joked. But her gaze turned serious, diving into mine. I spent 10 years coming to these end-of-the-year parties and leaving at 10 at night because I felt alone in rooms full of people. Everyone wanted something from the CEO. No one wanted to know who Victoria was. She paused, looking at the champagne glass in her hand. It's the first time in a long time that I don't feel like leaving. The party noise seemed to fade into the background. The world was just the two of us on that balcony. I'm glad you stayed, I said, my voice suddenly deeper. The party wouldn't have the same glow without my partner who, I discovered, is a pro at carrying electronics boxes. She smiled, a smile that started on her lips and ended in a tender glow in her eyes. I've been thinking, she began, hesitant, something rare for a woman of her caliber. Tomorrow is a holiday. The company will be quiet. No Marcus Valente. No fleet crises. No blizzards. Right. And I realized that in a year working side by side, facing boards and eating cold pizza in warehouses, we've never had dinner. For real. Without a tablet on the table or a damage report. I felt my heart beat at a rhythm no logistics crisis ever caused. Is that an executive summons, Ms.? Sterling? I teased, trying to hide my nervousness. No, she replied. And for the first time, I saw Victoria Sterling blush. She placed her hand over mine on the railing. The touch was warm, firm and full of meaning. It's an invitation, from Victoria to Lucas. I looked at our intertwined hands. I looked at the incredible woman who had become my best ally, and I now realized, much more than that. I accept the invitation, I replied, turning my hand to hold hers. On one condition. What? She arched an eyebrow defiantly. No talking about Marcus or logistics, just about us. She laughed, a free and genuine laugh. Deal. 10, 9, 8. The crowd inside began the countdown. Victoria didn't look at the hall. She kept staring at me, her fingers squeezing mine. Thank you, Lucas, she whispered under the sound of the shouting, for not giving up, for teaching me that being human is our greatest asset. You always had that in you, Victoria. You just needed someone who believed enough to remind you. 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year! Fireworks exploded in the sky, painting the snow in vibrant colors. Amidst the noise and celebration, Victoria leaned in and gave me a kiss on the cheek, very close to the corner of my mouth. It was a subtle, quick touch, but one that carried the promise of an entire year to come. She pulled back millimeters, eyes shining with a promise that didn't need signed contracts. Happy New Year, Lucas. Happy New Year, partner. Life has a poetic way of closing cycles. Sometimes you need to lose everything, be thrown into the cold, and taste injustice to finally find your place. Sometimes you need to say a courageous no to what is easy, so that life can finally offer you what is right. I looked at the hall, at my happy team, and at the woman beside me who now held my arm affectionately. Doing the right thing is expensive. It costs courage, it costs risk, it costs sleepless nights. But when I see where we've arrived and who we've become, I'd pay double without a second thought. If this story touched your soul, like this video to spread this message of kindness. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell, because here we tell stories that matter. And let me know in the comments. If you were in Lucas's place, would you give your job over Arthur's? Share your blessing with us.